There was a guy named Paul Harvey who used to have a radio show I liked. And it was a short little clip. And he always had these things where he would tell you the rest of the story. And it's interesting because when it comes to procrastination, there's always more to the story than we even realize. A lot of times we think procrastination is just a fundamental character flaw. Oh, well, I'm a bum. I can't do anything. I felt that way. Have you felt that way before?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like you just beat yourself up and think that's somehow going to fix it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just not. We think we're a terrible person, but we're not. And that's the reality of procrastination. A lot of times procrastination is an outward symptom of something that's going on the inside. And I'm not saying that to blame other things, but it's the fruit, not the root. Is that right? Yeah.
Procrastination is the fruit, not the root.
Fruit, not the root. That's what I thought. We like that saying, so we put it in there. But it's not a self-contained thing. There's sometimes outside reasons you procrastinate, sometimes inside reasons you procrastinate. And what we want to do today is dig down deeper. We want to figure out why are we procrastinating, what the procrastination's all about. Because sometimes we have to deal with other things so we don't procrastinate. And it's just more than, I just got to try harder. I just got to quit being a bum. Because a lot of men, we're really good at beating ourselves up when really there may not be a reason to. So today we're going to get deep on the show and deal with our procrastination.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
Welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast, where our goal is to get you out of survival mode and into living a life that you can be proud of. I'm Reese.
And I'm David.
He's my dad, and we work on coaching men to make their lives better. Today we're talking about procrastination.
Yes, we are.
Last week, we discussed this idea that sometimes we classify things that aren't procrastination as procrastination.
Yeah.
So it's a really good thing to jump into before we get into the reasons behind it. And if you haven't checked it out, you should definitely go do that right now.
Yeah.
Right now, we are discussing, however, some of the things that lie underneath the surface. We think of procrastination as a self-contained problem.
Yeah.
Or, like you said in the introduction, some fundamental character flaw.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you're just awful. That's why you procrastinate,
Yeah.
oh, I just am terrible.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. There's a lot more playing into it. And that's not actually a discouraging thing.
No.
Because it means that there's a lot of creative ways that we can attack this problem and turn it, hopefully, into our advantage.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, if you see a turtle on a fence post, he didn't get there by himself.
I forgot about that saying.
I know. I just thought of it. And it's true that there's a lot of things we do in our life that are happening in our life that really have an underlying issue.
Yeah.
And again, we're not saying that to blame the issue. We're not taking away responsibility. What we're doing is saying these things kind of point you toward making some of the decisions you do. And so what we want to do is understand that, because if we can't stop making some decisions, one of them being procrastination, there's probably a reason behind it. You say, well, I'm just lazy. Well, that could be part of it for one area. But a lot of times when it's a habit, when it's over and over again, there's a reason. There's something deep going on. And we think you need to figure that out so you can fix it and get past it.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one. The first area that kind of lies underneath the surface of procrastination a lot of times is the fear of failure. Everyone is apprehensive at the beginning of a new venture or doing one that is not particularly their favorite. That's natural. However, if we get stuck in the fear of failure, oh, what if I mess up? What if this doesn't go the way I want it to? What if it's more difficult than I expect? We can end up almost getting an analysis paralysis. And it'll paralyze us from even taking action because we're so focused on the what ifs that we don't move forward. That can end up causing its own form of procrastination.
It does. And we kind of set ourselves up for it sometimes because we go into things with an unrealistic expectation.
All the time.
Like if you want to start getting
Yes.
healthy and going to the gym, but you start looking at fitness influencers online, people who are just shredded, who have like a, 4% body fat.
Working out twice a day for
Yeah.
an hour and a half each time.
Yeah, they're doing all that. You look at that and think, well, I can't be like that. Well, nobody said you had to, but maybe you want to get to just a lower percentage of body fat. That's not a bad thing. Or even to shrink a couple clothes sizes where your pants don't have to be as big. Those are good things. You don't have to set this, well, I can't be like this guy, so I'm just not even going to try. Or what if I try, but I never get shredded abs? Well, maybe you just have a flat stomach. You don't have to have abs to have a flat stomach. You can get those things, and maybe we're just kind of setting ourselves up by having these expectations of I've got to reach this goal. And so what it is, that's really a fear of failure. What if I go for it and don't make it? And I think a lot of men just kind of back off because they think, well, I'm just not going to try.
Yeah, it's almost as if you were trying to take a test, and the way the test is set up is you either make 100 or you fail.
Yep. Yeah, it's true.
There's a big amount of space
Yeah.
between making 100 and actually failing a test. And that's how many of our goals are in life. There's good. It doesn't have to just be perfect. There's
Yeah.
good, there's
Yeah.
amazing, there's great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different levels
Yeah.
before you get from perfect to failure.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we see it as black and white. Either I look like this, fitness model, or I fail. And you're just like, why? Why
Yeah.
would you set it like you're stacking the cards against yourself, which creates that fear of failure?
Yeah.
If failure is such a broad category and success is such a narrow category, it's like, well, I have to play guitar like Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Yeah. Yeah.
or something like that,
Yeah.
or something along those lines. You're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, and you don't find the good in being good. I mean, yeah, there are areas in your life you want to be great in. You don't want to just be good in. And that usually is centered around your giftings, your abilities, and all that. But there's plenty of things in life it's okay to be good at.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you try new things, getting to good is okay. It's not a 100 or fail. And I think that's a great illustration because it's one of those things that paralyzes us and we never take action. Like, when you're a young guy and you're getting into the dating world, that can be scary.
It is for sure intimidating.
And a lot of guys today, they just don't ask. And I think, I'm not saying the dating apps are bad, but sometimes that can get it to where you feel like you're doing something, but you're not. You're just swiping. You're not actually asking a girl out. And a lot of guys never ask the girl out because they're afraid. What if she says no?
Yeah. And that feeds into another part of the fear of failure. We end up doing what psychology refers to as catastrophizing.
Yep.
Where it's like, if the girl says no to me, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yeah.
I'm going to just keel over and die.
Yeah.
I don't know why I turned Southern there.
You
But
turn real Southern.
yeah, but we work ourselves up. You could also call it rumination, where
Yeah.
you've never even halfway indicated to this girl that you have the slightest bit of interest in her.
Yeah.
But you already have your whole identity riding on this question
Yeah.
to where you've built it up as such a big thing. Well, of course you're going to procrastinate and be intimidated to take the step.
Yeah.
That's scary in your brain. You've set it up to be this all or nothing, either a number one or tragedy kind of a scenario. So the overthinking is something we need to take a step back from if we're going to dial back on procrastination.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we want to do is really think, okay, am I building this up bigger than it is? Am I avoiding failure? Because here's the reality of failure. It's normal.
Say it one more time for the people. in the
Failure
back.
is normal. People fail. You fail at things. Sometimes you try something, you're just not good at it.
Successful people fail.
Successful people fail all the time. In fact, you talk to any person who started businesses, been a billionaire or something like that, they failed. And they'll tell you about their failures more than they'll tell you about their successes. And the thing we got to understand is we just can't take ourselves so seriously.
No, you're right. I think that will cause us to procrastinate. If we see every failure as a mark against our identity as a worthwhile guy,
Yeah.
well, of course you're going to be scared of messing up at any point. It's its own brand of perfectionism.
It is.
Because it's built on your performance, and we don't want to fall into that. Because the truth is, even successful companies a lot of times had to pivot.
Yeah.
Like Facebook started out as specifically being for college people linking up with each other.
Yep.
And then they pivoted and turned into this huge social media giant. Instagram. I didn't know this, but I read in a book that Instagram started as a bourbon app.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
And now they switched to social media and pictures, and, and they did it very successfully.
Yeah.
Or another one, YouTube was originally a dating site. It
No
was,
way.
it was based off, you filmed yourself doing a video talking about yourself so you could see each other talking. And people loved the video element so much, YouTube was like, well, let's just drop the dating part and go straight to videos.
That makes sense. The name YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
even these most successful companies ever failed up front because they did not fully predict what was going to happen.
Yeah.
To where well, let's go back to the asking a girl out illustration. Maybe you've built it up in your mind. Once I ask this girl out, she's going to propose to me on the spot.
Yeah.
And maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's like, okay, fine. We'll go bowling. I'll do that with you, buddy.
Yeah.
That's a starting point, you
It
know?
is. It
And
is.
maybe you'll find out you like her and she likes you. Maybe you find out that y'all aren't meant for each other, but that's okay. You took the step.
Yeah.
It's okay to pivot. It's okay to fail. John Maxwell said this one time. He said, the reason you do something the first time is so you can do it the second time.
Yeah.
Your first time will never be your best time. And that is okay. That's part of it. We can't let the fear of failure stop us from taking action.
Well, and the reality of failure is, again, if we don't catastrophize it, it's a learning process.
It is.
When you mess something up, you learn, okay, let me not do that again. I was listening to a podcast the other day about football teams. Right now, the pro teams are in their kind of off-season workout where they're getting together and working out.
Yep.
And they were talking about this new receiver who he just been drafted. He's new to the team. And the quarterback threw the ball one way, but he turned the other way. He messed up. And they said, that's normal. He's learning the playbook. He's learning all this stuff. So these are professionals. They're getting paid to do this. And there is a very high expectation, but there's also the reality of it's going to take him a little bit. He's brand new. He went from college to the pro. It's a totally different world. So he's got to learn how to do it. But that's the whole thing. They said he's going to learn. And I think we want to take that approach to our life that, hey, if I mess up, it just means I learned how not to do it, or I learned something about myself.
Yep.
And I think that learning process takes that fear of failure away.
Absolutely. We can't see every time things don't go the ideal way as a failure and a strike in our identity.
Yeah.
That will lead to a lifestyle of procrastination.
It will.
Because if messing up anything is such a big deal to you, then the best way to never mess up is to never take action.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's
so
true.
a lot of times that's a root of procrastination.
Yeah.
Why don't you give the people the second root of procrastination?
Another root is just a complete lack of motivation. It contributes to procrastination because you don't really see it as, well, this isn't a big deal. This is not that great a task.
I would almost call it like disconnecting from the why.
Yeah.
Like you don't see the purpose in it.
Yeah.
That can a lot of times lead to that lack of motivation.
Well, and you see it when you go to restaurants. Like I think Chick-fil-A does a good job of connecting with the why of what they do.
Yeah.
Which is why all the people who work there a lot of times have a great attitude. But then you go to like a McDonald's or, a Burger King or Popeyes, sometimes they're not that connected with the why. And
They're there to get a check.
That. Yeah, you sense that. And so what we want to do is look at our life and say, okay, why am I doing this? What's the reasoning behind why I'm doing this? Because if you're not that motivated, there's a reason why. And you want to kind of dig into that. And I think when we do that, we figure out some of the big picture items that can help us either overcome the procrastination or realize maybe I just shouldn't even be trying to do this.
Yeah. Well, whenever you start to examine your motives, that's when you can discover whether you have the wrong motive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's to please somebody. Maybe it was an unrealistic expectation of a parent.
Yeah.
A parent was always telling you that you should really be a lawyer. The lawyer's the way to go. You need to be a lawyer. Law school's for successful people. And so you're on this track and you're studying for the bar and you just don't give a crap. Maybe you're just doing what they told you to.
Yeah.
And you're not actually following what God's plan is for you.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
you're not going to get to that point, though, without reflection. If you just stay on the surface, you're going to think, well, I guess I'm just not a good studying guy.
Yeah.
I just got to try harder on this bar,
Yeah.
to where you may even be going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Or let's say you're going in the right direction. You might discover that there's a barrier that you didn't know about. So like maybe you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
You can never seem to stick with it. Well, maybe once you start examining your motivations, you start to see like you had a lot of stuff growing up to where eating was your coping mechanism.
Yep.
And that's how you dealt with life, was through eating. And now that that's come up to the surface, you're like, oh, well, this is disconnecting me from the why. You know, this is a barrier I didn't realize until just now.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is we reflect as men. The purpose of reflection is to kind of connect that small picture to the big picture.
You're
we want
right.
to figure out, why is my procrastination in this area? Why is it so consistent and all the time? Why am I not motivated? And then as you dig down, you may figure out, okay, maybe I'm going in the wrong direction. Or maybe I forgot my why. Maybe I forgot why I started this business or why I'm doing this. And you kind of rediscover that. You get a second wind in it.
Yeah.
But if you never dig down to look for that motivation, you'll never know that. And you'll either beat yourself up or just kind of quit. And I think a lot of guys end up doing that.
Yeah. And I think I love that you said connect your everyday to the big picture why, because we're going to talk about this in the next couple of weeks. But we have a system that we're going to recommend because there's an issue right now with how we do things a lot of times. There's this far off big picture dream that's way in the distance. And then there's my today. And because they're not linked, I have zero motivation.
Yeah.
However, if I can build a system that connects my actions today to that long-term vision, then that's where some motivation can come in. So maybe it's not that you don't even have the right motivation. Maybe you're just disconnected from the motivation in your everyday life. We have to be able to recognize that and work with that to be able to reconnect. And then you can have that steady flow of like, hey, I don't feel like doing this today, but I'm going to do it because I want that thing down the line. And this is how it lines up to that.
Yeah, and the good thing about it is a lot of times as we grow in that self-reflection, we learn ourselves. We learn what motivates me. What's the thing that kind of keeps me going? Maybe on one of those days you don't feel like doing something, but you do it anyway. And that's something you want to do. You want to bring that into your motivation so you can kind of step it up to that next level. And it helps you overcome that procrastination side.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's all kinds of psychological studies on how like we have to have our motivation to complete a task linked to not only the importance of the task, but really a sense of urgency for it. And that can come through what we're going to recommend in the future, that multi-scaled planning. But the third thing, instant gratification addiction.
Yeah.
This is one that I think would more typically think of for procrastination.
Yeah, I think we would.
And this is just the truth. We live in a world where it's very easy to have mental junk food 24/7.
That's a great term for it, mental junk food.
You know, you're wired as a human to want to feel good. And Instagram, TikTok, whatever streaming services you may have, all of these things are paths to very low friction, low investment, quick reward stuff. The issue is that those quick rewards are, one, not as satisfying
Yeah.
because they're not happening in the real world.
Yeah.
But two, they don't lead to your long-term good. A lot of times they'll inhibit your long-term good unless they're done in a good proportion.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's where we have to be careful because the instant gratification is so easy today. And we're not blaming technology. It's just the reality. It's you can pick up your phone and sit there and scroll for 2 hours and watch videos that people put a lot of time and energy into for you to consume in 30 seconds.
And it'll be free.
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally free. And so you want to be careful that that doesn't train you that everything should be that way, because then you kind of lose that ability to kind of fight through some things, to work through maybe the hard times. And what we want to do is understand it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. You know, it's like, okay, I'm getting rid of my phone.
I'm going to be a monk.
Yeah.
I'm going into the
You
mountains.
may need to do that for a time, but maybe it's just you say, okay, I'm only going to look at these during my lunch hour. I'm not going to do it during the workday. I'm not going to do it at night. You know, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make productivity easier for me. You know, it could be as simple as putting your phone on Do Not Disturb or just taking the app off. You know, you can pull the app off and then just re-download it later. Or only look at it on weekends. There's all kinds of tricks and tips you can do. You just have to know that, okay, this is kind of being like a crack to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I love the mental junk food image because if your cabinet is full of junk food, it's easier to eat it.
It's almost like your phone is like you're carrying around a vending machine.
Yeah, it really
with
is.
free candy.
Yeah.
Like, no duh, you're going to want to do that instead of work on whatever thing that's going to be kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make you a bad person. That's just, you know, like a 2 + 2 is 4 kind of a thing. Do I want to do this thing that feels good and requires no investment? Or do I want to do this thing that I don't want to do and requires a lot of
And that's
work?
hard. Yeah.
Well, no duh, you're going to go with the other one.
Yeah.
So what we're just bringing up is maybe adding a little bit of friction to where maybe instead of the vending machine being in your pocket 24/7,
Yeah.
you make it to where it's out to the side.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah.
The lights aren't shining in your face with the Reese's in there. They look so beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe you even have a paywall, you know, to where you have to do something. You have to invest a little something to get that mental junk food.
Yeah.
Even that can help you stay on track a lot better.
Yeah, and I think it helps you figure out the tendency to procrastinate because this one's pretty easy. And I think most people today get this one the easiest.
For sure.
You know, a lot of people talk about how much time you spend on your phone, what you do with your phone. And phones aren't evil. Again, it's what we do with it. It's how we treat it, what we do. And when we understand that tendency, like you said, create a little bit of friction. You know, if you read a book like Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, where it really talks about doing that, where you purposely are doing things to get away from technology. It's better for your brain. We're not saying get rid of it. We're just saying you want to keep it in its proper place. You know, and it may be a thing as simple as, okay, tomorrow, no TikTok. And just see how you do. You know, if you're kind of wandering around your house, then maybe you got some issues and you want to deal with it.
And the truth is, productivity sounds a lot more interesting when you're bored.
It does. Yeah.
Like when you're just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
You know, going and taking care of something becomes an interesting project to engage your mind.
Yeah.
The issue is right now, your mind can be engaged with whatever you want, whenever you want. And so going and working on that project is a lot less appealing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about the last one.
Okay.
And this is one that I think we get the gist of, but we don't think about it a lot in terms of procrastination.
Yeah.
And that's working outside of your natural zone, your gifts, your interests, what God gave you that naturally lights the fire in you.
Yeah.
That's different for everybody.
Yeah.
That's different for everybody, but you have a responsibility to learn yourself a little bit, learn about yourself, who you are, how God wired you, and begin to, instead of trying to work against that, work with that. Because you're going to procrastinate if it's something that's outside of your zone.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what this really came to bear a few years ago. Patrick Lencioni wrote a book Working Genius, and he
Very
has an
good book.
assessment, and it's about how you work and how you do. And reading that, taking the test really helped us go, oh, no wonder.
Yep.
No wonder I'm like this. And when you do that, it's very freeing. Again, it doesn't take away responsibility to get things done, but it helps you kind of learn how to lean into those things you're naturally good at. And maybe as a boss, let other people do the things you don't. You know, a lot of us as men think I have to be great at everything. And that makes us terrible bosses. People don't want to work for us because we're kind of control freaks. But if we learn that, okay, I'm going to do the stuff that I'm naturally good at and let other people do the stuff I'm not, those are the kind of bosses most people want to work for because they let them thrive and do well.
And a lot of times you'll find the areas that you're procrastinating in are areas that you just, that it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example for Emily and I. I am not a visual art kind of person. I enjoy looking at visual art, but creating it, arranging it, thinking in that realm, I'm just not that guy. Like I have probably 4 different signs, paintings, and shelves in the corner of my office that I've wanted to put on my wall, but I haven't done it for 4 years. This is pre-COVID that I bought all this stuff, and it's sitting in the corner because I just don't care. I'm like, my walls can be blank. It's fine. You know, I've got one wall with stuff on it, and I'm just going to leave it like that.
Yeah.
But however, my wife, Emily, that would drive her nuts.
It would.
And she has everything arranged nicely. Like our house looks good. Like if you walked in our house today, you'd be like, this looks nice. It's because of her.
Yeah.
It is not because of me. She thinks through that lens and does that.
Yeah.
A lot of times we as guys will be like, well, I guess I'm just a bum.
Yeah.
When really it's your equivalent of me with my signs in the corner.
Yeah, and it's something we should keep in mind. I think when we even move into making commitments to things, you know, sometimes we'll commit to things because we want people to like us, but it's something that just makes us hate life and hate everybody. You know, hey, we need volunteers to do this. Oh, I'll do it. And inside, you know, you hear that voice screaming, don't do it. Of course, that's whispering, but I didn't want to scream in the microphone. But it's the reality that you're like, why did I volunteer for this? Why did I do this?
Yeah, even in what you pick to commit to, you need to take this and keep it in mind.
Yeah, think about what you're naturally good at, what for you enjoy. So it's easier to go to something that you like. And you don't want to volunteer so other people like you doing something you hate, because eventually you won't be that good at it and they'll probably kick you off. You know, hey, thanks for volunteering. We don't need you anymore. Because you hate being there. They hate you being there because you're not that good at it. It's just the reality. It's like someone who's a bad singer trying out for the band.
Yeah, you're not going to put them in the band.
No.
You don't even want them in the band.
No.
Don't be the bad singer that tries to join the band.
No. It's funny on American Idol to watch those people, but that's why we do it. We do it to watch them crash and burn. We don't want to be that person. So what we want to do is really think about, what am I naturally good at? And being okay with that.
Yes.
Understand that there are things that you're good at that other people aren't, and there are things that you're bad at that other people are good at. Let them be good at it. Focus on the stuff that you're really good at, and that'll kind of help you get out of that procrastination zone, because a lot of times we procrastinate in areas that just don't jazz us. We're just not that good at.
Exactly. So that's the final route that we kind of thought of when it comes to procrastination, and kind of a beneath the surface reason of why we can often procrastinate. So let's get into the practicals of this. We talked about 4 main areas, 4 main routes that can lead to procrastination, besides just the I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it thing. So our encouragement to everybody, what would we be challenging them to do during this coming week?
Well, this week I would really look at those 4 areas and kind of say to yourself, okay, do any of these hit with an area I'm procrastinating in?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying look at your whole life. Look at maybe the biggest area you procrastinate in right now and say, okay, do I have a fear of failure? Am I afraid I'm going to blow it or I can't do it perfectly? Do I just lack the motivation? And if so, why? Have I forgotten my why? Or did I volunteer for something I really shouldn't have? Look at your motivation. What's going on behind it? Or maybe you just like easy stuff. You've gotten into that instant gratification mode, and maybe you need to pull back on some of that. Maybe a little less screen time or other things to help you kind of get your brain back into normal gear to where you're just hitting dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and it makes it where nothing satisfies you. Mm-hmm. Or are you just working outside your zone? Maybe you're trying to do something. If you're not a detail person, but you're trying to do a detail-oriented job, maybe that's why you're not good at that job. And you say, well, I can't get anything else. Have you looked? Or maybe you're procrastinating on that. You can change your job. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. And I'm not saying everybody gets to do what they dream of. I'm just talking about getting to do something that I can do this. I'm good at this. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's going to be a fun job, but it's something you're good at because it fits your natural gifting. So I would look in those areas and really think about, is it one of these areas why I keep procrastinating in this situation?
Yeah, don't just accept the guilt. Mm-hmm. Don't just accept that shame of I guess I'm just a procrastinator. That's who I am. Yeah. We need to learn to go deeper. And you've got to go deeper. You have to start examining, why are you procrastinating? Once you have that answer, we'll be able to deal with it in the right way. Mm-hmm. In the coming episodes, we're going to be giving you guys really, I would just say, practical tips, practical strategies for dealing with these 4 areas. And so as we go throughout the couple weeks, you having reflected on this week is going to be very helpful. So go ahead and do that, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.